Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back. Today, I have a very special guest, Cadyn Grenier, who lives in Las Vegas. I'm trying to get all my Las Vegas ties and buddies out here. I've known Cayden since he was just a young lad at Bishop Gorman, helped coach him over there for 1 year. So, Cayden, welcome, and thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Thanks for having me.
So, my first kind of impression of you, Cayden, and I wanted to kind of bring in some stories here with you today because I was able to coach over at Bishop Gorman for just 1 year, and it happened to be your freshman year. So you had just come on to Gorman, and my first time I had ever seen you was that when I decided, okay, I'm going to go coach at Gorman, help out, I went over to CSN, and you guys were having a scrimmage, and Nick Day, who was one of my best friends, was the head coach at the time, said, hey, you gotta take a look at this shortstop. He's 15 years old. This dude can play. And I watched you, and then I think you hit a grand slam that day, right? Do you remember that? Or your home? It was a 3-run or a grand slam home run.
Yeah, I might. I don't remember it though.
I was like, all right, this guy can play. So I wanted to bring on Cayden, bring you on today too, because you became a first-round pick out of college. I want you to kind of walk us through your story as a high school player, because you were also had the chance to sign in pretty high as a high school player and decided to not go that route and went to Oregon State, won a national championship, just stud, all that stuff. So I want to go and kind of rewind back to your freshman year. You made varsity, right, at Bishop Gorman, which is a pretty awesome feat. That was Joey Gallo's senior year, so you got to watch that. So, but one thing that stuck out to me is, number one, your talent when you played, but we've talked before about kind of almost like perfectionism in a way of mental toughness in the game. And I remember you were really hard on yourself as a young player. How did that work out for you, and where do you feel like you're at now with just kind of beating yourself up a little bit, if you will?
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things that I've always thought has been one of my strengths, believe it or not, is trying to be that perfectionist. And yeah, it does lead to me to beat up on myself from time to time when, I make errors or strike out or something like that. But it's like, it's been so good for me too, because when I'm out taking ground balls or in the cage or something, me trying to be perfect has, I think, made me better than me just trying to get in there and just be good or be average, or, hey, if I just hit like 6 of these good, like that's good. Or if I only field 6 of them, it's like, well, if you only field 6 out of every 10 in the big leagues, you're not in the big leagues, And so, yeah, I definitely, the whole perfectionist thing is definitely 100% the way that I train and stuff. But like you as well as anybody, it does get to me sometimes. I do beat myself up because I do want to be perfect in everything that I do. And when I was in high school, definitely I had a lot of success in high school, and so whenever something did go wrong, it was like, dude, what are you doing? Like, it could have been completely uncontrollable, but I always blamed myself. I was like, I got to do this better. And as I got into college, my coaches really started pulling me aside. I go, dude, like, relax. Like, it's okay to make mistakes. We know who we like, because my coaches really understood my mindset. They really understood how I wanted to be, great and wanted to be perfect. And so when stuff would happen, they'd be like, dude, like, just try to let it go. Let's work on this. You got all the physical tools. Your swing's locked in right now, but next time this happens, let's just focus on just putting it to the side and just being like, dude, whatever, like, I don't care. Which is very tough for me to do. But I think it's definitely been kind of a double-edged sword for sure. I think it's helped me a lot, and in a lot of situations, I'm sure that it's hurt me because mentally I've maybe been out of it or something, and it's caused me to have a bad game or make a bad play or something like that.
Do you feel like, let's talk about your shortstop play, which I remember at 15, I had kind of been a little bit out of the game as far as going to watch games, and I was doing other things at that time. But I remember coming back and watching just your actions and the way you went about things as a young 15-year-old. I mean, we had a pretty good staff, a couple of former big leaguers and like we were just like, dude, like this guy can really play shortstop. And to this day, with my scouting experience, you've been one of the best shortstops I've seen. And I remember talking to your parents. I'm like, you know, because I think your defense, you would say, was a little bit better than offense at the time, and you're starting to close that gap, which has been amazing to see. But I'm like, dude, you could get to the big leagues on your defense alone, right? And I always thought that. But how did you? Was there ways that you separated your offense from defense, and did you ever find that you put them together, and maybe you didn't have a great game offensively, and that translated to the field? How did that work for you?
I've always kind of just had the mindset of I've noticed like my defense is it has always been a little bit stronger than my offense, and sometimes it's a lot better than it, and it's a lot more consistent as it should be. But you know, I've always taken pride in the fact that I can play short or second or third at a very high level. And that's always kind of been able to help me like pick up myself when I do have a bad game offensively. You know, I can go back and go, you know what, like this is where I can make my money right here. I can make up for that bad at bat by making a play or something like that. And I always had the confidence that if I had the ball hit to me, whether, you know, I had just struck it out or hit a home run or something, I was going to be able to make that play. So a lot of the times I feel like I do a really good job of keeping them separated. So even though I can strike out and, you know, throw stuff and break stuff, and once I get out to short and that ball is thrown to the plate or whatever, I'm not thinking about that at bat, and it's allowed me to really use my defense to pick myself up when I'm not having those good offensive days. And luckily, I don't feel like I have too many really bad defensive days. So you know, I'm glad that I have that second part of the game where if it's not going right offensively, or I'm just having a bad day or something, when I'm on the field at short, I'm like, okay, you know what, this is going to be the good part of the day. Like, you know, I'm going to lock it down right now, and it kind of just elevates everything else.
Very nice. When you tell us about, you know, kind of fast forward to your senior year, you had an amazing senior year. The draft comes around. Kind of walk us through what happened and kind of your experience with the whole draft as a high school senior.
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously throughout the whole season, you have scouts coming to the house and talking to me and my parents, asking questions and sending questionnaires for me to fill out, you know, and all that. And really, the only thing that I was worried about was just playing and trying to win a state championship, because I kind of had it in my mind from day one that plan A was get a scholarship to go play college baseball. And then as everything developed, plan B started to form a little bit, which ended up being signed in the draft. Right. You know, and so I think that was the mindset that really got me to focus on just playing high school baseball at the time and trying to win with my team, and not worried about the scouts in the stands and who's coming to my house after school that day, and oh, am I going to sign for a lot of money out of high school? Like, but it was a lot, and it was every day I was filling out questionnaires for, you know, a little bit every day, and then I was talking to people on the phone and talking to people in the house. And you always see scouts at practice and at games, and they want you to do, you know, batting practice after so they can watch you hit. And you kind of got to figure out, well, I'm not doing that today, like I'll do it on this day, and you got to schedule all that. But you know, for me, it was fine. You know, my parents did a really good job of handling and going, look, like, we don't want people here every single day, so this is what we're gonna do. If this guy wants to come this day and this guy wants to come this day, like, so they helped a lot with kind of keeping the stress or kind of keep everything from overflowing and my plate getting too full. And so I was still able to academically have a great senior year at Gorman, and you know, and then obviously play really well because I wasn't worried about the draft. You know, and then draft day comes around, and you know, we as a family had kind of picked out like, hey, going to Oregon State's really awesome. And so, you know, we basically picked a number, a signing bonus number, and said, look, or I guess I kind of picked it and said, look, if somebody gives me this number or higher, I'll sign with them. If they don't, I'm not going to. And that's what ended up happening. I got one call on the first day from the Cardinals, and they wanted to take me with the 21st or the 23rd pick in the first round. but they didn't want to give me the number that I was asking that they had known. And so basically I just said, no, I'd rather just go to college. I said, and the thing was, is the tough part was it was pretty close to that number too. And how I decided, no, I'm just going to stick with what I want to know, even though they threw out a ton of money. You're just like, as an 18-year-old, I was like, no, like I'm sticking with my number. And I was really proud of myself for that. And then the whole rest of the draft just didn't really go my way. Nobody wanted to give me that money. And, so I ended up calling Coach Casey at Oregon State and said, look, man, I'm coming, and I can't wait to be there. And so that's basically how my the whole draft process was.
And the Cardinals still ended up drafting you, right, later on, which is awesome to say you were drafted out of high school. And that's sometimes teams do that where they know, okay, he's probably not going to sign, but maybe we're going to pick a spot here, but we still love the kid. We're going to draft him. So that it does happen. Now, as far as your decision goes, you've had a taste of pro ball. Was that the best decision you made for you to go to school?
100%, man. And I always tell everybody this when they ask, like, I'm a little bit biased because I had such a great time in college. I had two of the best college baseball teams to ever walk this planet in my sophomore and junior year. And I got to go to the College World Series twice, and I won it once, which is the most unbelievable experience I've ever had. And so, like, when I say that I would do it 10 times over just the way that I did, I do mean that, but I also had such a great experience that not only did I feel like I was prepared for pro ball when I came out, I was more mature to handle the stresses of everyday pro ball, but I just had such a good time for 3 years with some of the best dudes that are going to be my best friends forever, and had some great coaches. And, I just wish everybody could have the same chance and experience that I did.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting you mentioned that you felt you were more mature at that time. And that actually reminds me of a story that you and I, when we were together, this was your senior year in high school, and you're playing on the Cardinals scout team here in Vegas, and you just finished up another great year. And I remember we were at Cashman Field, and this was actually your junior year, because the story I remember, that it was Nick Quintana, who was another Vegas player that just got drafted. He was a prospect a year older than you in Vegas. And
younger.
Yeah, he had a really good series at Cashman Field. I think he had 2 homers, and I was coaching first base. I don't know if you even remember this or not. And I think he had just hit a homer, and I think you had hit a ground ball, and I think which made you like 0 for 3 for that game, or you got a base hit, rounded first base, and then you came back to, and I'm kind of ready to give you that fist bump. And you said something along the lines of like, I can't compete with that. And I think there was a pitching change, and I'm like, well, what do you mean you can't compete with that? And because what you were doing is you were comparing yourself to what Quintana was doing, right? So 17 years old, comparing, and then that was the day that you and I actually had a talk, because I was a little concerned, right? And I was like, I got to have a talk with Cayden. So we went down the right field line at Cashman Field. I'm like, hey, dude, come follow me. Like, let's just go talk. And you were actually like very open to it. You're like, yeah, dude, just let me. What am I doing? And I'm like, and I can't remember even exactly what was said, but I was like, hey, dude, like, stop comparing yourself to what he's doing or what everybody else is doing, right? And it's a picture and an image that I had at that time of you as a younger kid, and I vividly remember telling you, I'm like, hey, dude, like, you're going to be a draft prospect next year, right? And we want to see you go out, play, have fun, enjoy yourself, and and just enjoy the game, And it was kind of along that line, and you're like, yeah, dude, I can do that, and to stop comparing myself to so and so, and so that's why I was like, I think college was probably a great thing for you, and it may be a different story if you went to a different program. You probably would have done just as well personally, but that overall experience of going to Oregon State and being on that team, and that was just, number one, it was awesome to see you at the College World Series, because I think that's every high school kid's dream. I want to go play in the College World Series.
No, it absolutely should be, man. The College World Series was the most unreal thing I've ever experienced. And, you know, I just, like I said, I couldn't be more thankful for the opportunity I had in college. I had coaches that not only were great baseball coaches, but they were great life coaches. They all had this motto of, you know, they didn't want to build baseball players. They wanted to build the best husbands, the best coworkers, the best family, like everything out of a guy. And because they all realized, hey, baseball's going to end. A lot of you guys aren't going to get drafted. Some of you guys will never make it. Like, we just want the best men that we can build. And so that was another reason that I was really thankful that I went to college, because I learned a lot from my coaches and really got a different mindset there. And a lot of the values that they hit on are some of the ones that I'm really strong on too. So it was awesome.
Are there any particular stories or thoughts that you learned from those coaches that really stand out to you?
I mean, there's a lot, man. I mean, Pat Casey is the most motivational, inspirational coach that I think you'll ever find, especially in baseball. And that was one of his main things that he was always into. He always had quotes for us. He always had books that we could read that were all about, like, hey, like, you guys got it a lot better than a lot of people. We read books on Navy SEALs, they want us to read a book on the All Blacks, the New Zealand rugby team. I mean, everything that you could imagine. I mean, we were ready to run through a wall a lot of the times when we left our team meetings. And a lot of the times those team meetings weren't always necessarily about baseball. They were just about, hey, it doesn't matter what you're doing, you know, whether it's homework or baseball or you're with your family or whatever, like, the lessons that we learned in those meetings were amazing. And they definitely opened up a lot of our eyes to different things that we had never thought about. And when you're able to take life things and apply them to baseball or vice versa, I think a lot of guys got a lot out of those meetings.
That's awesome. What advice would you give now that how old are you now?
23.
23. So we got a couple years of pro ball experience already. What would you tell a high school player now? It's maybe some of the lessons you've learned in the last few years. How would you relate that to a high school kid?
I mean, when I was in high school, I remember playing with some guys that were always super worried about scouts and getting drafted, and you know, oh, I want to go D1, but I'm not getting any offers, or oh, I want to get drafted because I want to play pro ball. And a lot of kids put too much value on going D1 or getting drafted because not everybody's path is the same. You know, I played with some guys that were walk-ons at Oregon State that came from junior colleges, had no scholarship money whatsoever, but they ended up being some of our most valuable pieces and started just about every day. Not because they were top prospects, you know, and they aren't pro baseball players now, but they, as much of anybody, helped us win College World Series. You know, but it's just one of those things where I think guys just got to focus on getting their schoolwork done, because every college looks at your schoolwork, your grades and stuff, and then obviously focusing on just getting yourself better every day, and the chips will fall where they will, you know. And I hated to see some of the guys that I played with in high school really have lesser careers because I think they were too worried about who was in the stands, and so their performances kind of went on a decline their junior, senior years. And then those schools that they thought they would be able to get into were kind of like, we don't really want you anymore. The draft kind of was like, no, you're not good enough to get drafted right now. And I think it's just one of those things where you can't focus on those external things. You just got to be able to focus on what's inside the lines, what's inside the classroom, and really what's inside your home, you know, being the best son, the best daughter, the best student, you know, and then trying to be the best at your craft as well.
That's awesome. Now that you're in pro ball, what's your routine? Now, obviously we're in an interesting situation. We're being at home, but let's say if that didn't happen, what's your routine like when you're in the off season getting ready for the season?
Yeah, no, I mean, when I get back, it's typically like early September. And I won't really do anything except for just like stretch, until, I don't know, October. So I'll take at least 3.5, 4 weeks of just doing nothing, just to let my body just tighten back up and heal itself back up. And then once that kind of hits around, I'll start, once you get to like October, I'll start, I don't know, I'll start like golfing, start getting a little bit loose with swinging and stuff. And I'll start getting back into the weight room and doing mobility type body weight exercises, nothing heavy, just to get my body loose, more flexible, and ready to pick up the weights when I'm about to. And so that I'll do for, I did that for about a month last off season, where it was just body weight mobility exercises 4 times a week. And then I started hitting I started hitting late November this last year, which was a little early for what I had done the previous year. I didn't hit till New Year's, but last year I started hitting like late November, so about a month earlier. And I would do that 3 or 4 times a week at least. And then along with the 4 days of lifting, and typically it was 1 or 2 days of like speed and agility work as well. And I just basically did that until, I got ready for spring training, and it worked great for me. I worked out in the mornings, went to the cage right after, and then had the rest of the afternoon to do schoolwork because I'm taking online classes and just hang out and enjoy the off season.
So you're still finishing up your degree then?
Not quite. I'm trying. I see, like, I would have classes right now, but I wasn't planning on being home. I was planning on playing, so I'd be taking classes right now too. But I'm pretty close. I should be done this next off season actually.
Do you do any of your classes, like say this past year? Did you do any of your classes during the season?
No, that's just one of those things where it's like I don't want to have to get up in the morning and worry about getting a project done before I got to go to the field, or waiting, like getting home and being like, oh, I don't want to do homework right now because I just played 9 innings or whatever it is. And it's just one of those things where I would rather just focus on one at a time. And with the way that off season set up, you have 5 months of doing nothing. So for Oregon State, that's 1.5 terms. So my second term finished up during spring training, which is no big deal because it's kind of the same. You do everything in the morning, you have the whole afternoon off. And so I did that for the fall and winter term at Oregon State online.
Okay. All right, sweet. So on the professional side of things, you played what, 1.5 years now? Is that about right?
Yeah, that's about right.
You've had at least one full season in, right?
Yeah, I have a full season and about 45 games on top of that.
Okay. What was your mentality on going through that first full year? And maybe you get through the first half of the year, start getting into like June, July, and August. Where were you at, I guess, physically and mentally at those points?
Physically, I was doing fine. Physically, your body doesn't feel good when you wake up in the morning. But once you get to the field and you take BP and you stretch and you start to feel a little bit better.
Oh, you there?
But it's just, you hear me?
Yeah, you had frozen up on me for about 15 seconds.
Okay, gotcha. Anyways, so
we're good now.
So what I was saying is, like, you just, once you get into the field and you start like you stretch out, you lift, you get into BP, you warm up, your body starts to feel better than it does when you first wake up. But you know that's going to happen just about every day. And luckily, I've been pretty lucky, and I haven't had too many major injuries. I've strained both my obliques. I did that all last year, but it was one during spring training and one at the very, very end of the season. So I haven't missed too many games at all. Mentally, honestly, once you get into like end of July and August, you're just like, dude, I cannot wait to get home. You're counting down the games, you're counting down the amount of days until you can leave. But once you're at the field, you still have to take care of business, and so you have to be able to kind of make light of like, dang, like I can't wait to get done. I can't wait to not play baseball. But you get to the field and you got to be able to lock in and go, okay, you know what? I still got to do it today. Like I still have a goal to hit. I still want to get promoted. I still want to get better today. And so you kind of have both sides of that going on. And it's just one of those things where it's like, hey, we all are in the same boat. We're all super tired. We all want to go home, but we all realize that we are still playing for another month and a half. So we're going to get on the field and still try to win. Nobody's packing it up and going home with 60 games left. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's interesting how you get later into the year and your routine at the field, whether it's, your cage work, maybe probably extra ground balls aren't happening at that point. You're just kind of going through your batting practice routine. And you're like, whereas April, you might go, oh, I'm doing early work as far as my cage work every day, whether you take a certain amount of swings. And then by the time that end of the year gets, you dial that back as you start to know your body, and you're like, okay, I need to either cut it in half, I don't do it at all, or I need more. So it's interesting how that forms year after year as you get older.
Yeah, no, I've already noticed it now. Like I've only played one full season, but when you get into those later months, one, it's a lot hotter than it is at the beginning of the season. So you're already going to be sweating and you're going to be, just torched and tired at the end of the day. So you just got to do whatever you got to do to make it through those 9 innings with everything that you have. And so a lot of times we'll only have half an hour of early work where it's like, hey, look, we're taking BP today. It's hot and you're going to play all 9. So if you want to get some early swings in, let's do it, but let's do it only for 20 minutes instead of 45 or an hour. Because as you know, and a lot of other athletes will know, if you are struggling, the one thing that you want to do is figure it out. Mm-hmm. So if you go 0 for your last 10, you got to you want to get in the cage and go, okay, I got to figure this out. So you'll take 200 swings before a day and whatever, but then you're just tired.
Yeah.
And so that works at the beginning of the year, but as you've gotten 200, 250 at bats, you're like, okay, I need to just focus on taking 30 swings instead of 80 and making them really quality. And then I'm going to go sit in the locker room for 45 minutes before we go stretch and take batting practice or something like that. And then a lot of the times for like during BP, like the ground balls and stuff, the coaches do a pretty good job of just, hey, get what you need, and that's all up to you. Or at the beginning of the season, you might be juiced to be on the field, juiced to getting ground balls. And once you get towards the back end of the year, you've had enough where those extra 5 ground balls aren't going to benefit you at all. So it's like, instead of taking 15 ground balls during batting practice, just take, 6 or 7, throw them across, get your arm loose, that way you get the feel for the game, and then, kick it in the outfield and just relax for a little bit, just to save up that little bit of energy.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, especially for an infielder where you can get you could take a lot of ground balls. And I remember one of my kind of idols growing up was Cal Ripken, and I heard he had a watch on. It was like 10 or 15 minutes. He'd flip that thing on, and then bam, I'm going to go into my routine. It's got to be this amount of ground balls. And, that's the Iron Man. He played every single game, and broke that record and everything. But it's interesting how he was a really big guy, playing a premium position. There was a lot of effort exuded from what he was doing, but he just somehow was able to figure that out, where some guys are just like, I just need 15 ground balls, 5 at me, 5 left, 5 right. I'm good to go. My arm's loose, and then I'm going to go shag in the outfield.
Yeah, no, and that's the one thing that you see. Like I got the opportunity to kind of bounce up in between minor and major league camp this year for a couple of games, and you can kind of see the difference of like the minor league routines and the major league guys' routines. Like,
yeah,
when we inter squad on the minor league side, I mean, guys are out there 35 minutes before the game starts, and it's not even a real game, but they're stretching and they're getting ready and they're doing whatever. They're in the cage hitting more, whatever. You go to the big league side and everybody's just strolling out about 15 minutes before the game just because they've already done whatever they need to do for the day, and the only thing left in their mind is, all right, I just got to stretch for 6-7 minutes, get loose, and then I'm in. And so it's funny to see the guys that are established big leaguers, what they do versus guys that are trying to work their way up.
Yeah, there's no doubt. It's definitely dialed way back the higher up you go, because some guys are like, some guys are 10 years older than you. They've been around forever, and they're like, my body can't handle that. So I go out, or they did a bunch of stretching inside, right? And then they came out and they just kind of move a little bit. Okay, I'm ready to go.
Yeah, absolutely. That's so true. I mean, like I said, especially at the end of the year when it's hot, man, you want to do as much as you can inside before you have to go out there.
Yeah. So another thing I want to talk to you about, where you're seeing a completely different pattern of, see, when I was in the big leagues or in AAA at the higher levels and really going through my struggles, I felt like I was kind of on my own planet, if you will, and try to, in a way, you just got to figure it out. Now, almost pretty much every major league team has a mental skills type coach, and some have more than one. Tell me about if you've had any interactions with maybe the Orioles coach, any experiences with that.
Yeah, we do. Her name is Catherine. She's doing a phenomenal job. It's new. We got all new front offices. I'm sure a lot of baseball fans know the GM and all that are all different with the Orioles now. And one of the things that they did do is they brought in a mental skills coach, and she puts together these great PowerPoints and stuff for us now. And we have 2 or 3 meetings with her via Zoom, a week, and they're basically all optional, but a couple of them are like on Mondays, it's all about mindfulness. So a lot of the times we'll either meditate or we will go through some sort of visualization exercise, really to emphasize the fact that we can just be mindful of certain situations and work on things that don't relate to baseball. But once again, you can relate them to, oh, I can't sleep at night. Well, let's learn to shut those thoughts off. Let's learn to be able to relax and meditate, and let's translate to the field and stuff like that. And so, and it's great because we can text her at any time, we can call her, FaceTime, all that. And if you ever have questions or just need someone to talk to, she's always there, and she's always got great advice and great exercises that we can do to help, whatever it is we need to work on. Like, if you get anxiety, she's got some things where she's like, hey, let's work on the anxiety part of playing today. Let's see what we can do to lower that heart rate, lower the amount of thoughts going through your mind every second, and stuff like that. And so it's been really cool to just see some of the stuff that she's had us do and taught us.
Has there been, on that anxiety side of it, is there certain tips or techniques that you could share with us that would benefit the people listening?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it is really, like, for me, when I feel like I'm in a spot where I'm starting to get anxious, or luckily it doesn't happen too much off the field. I just get it a little bit on the field because you have those pressure situations, and you're under pressure to succeed and stuff like that. So you start to put more and more pressure on yourself, and that's when you start to get anxiety when you're not performing, stuff like that. And a lot of times for me, that's when I just have to take a step back and just take some deep breaths and just remind myself, like, dude, I'm just playing a game right now. Like, because I've figured out for myself that I can relax myself very well just by breathing, taking deep breaths, and just trying to slow my heart rate down, and just focusing on my breathing takes all the thoughts that are in my head and just goes away, because I can't think, oh, I need to breathe correctly, and I'm thinking about, oh, I need to get a hit right here. Like, and it's just been one of those things where I learned it in college from Alan Yeager, actually. And it's something that I've taken and I use just when I'm laying in bed at night and I'm like, I can't sleep. I'll just instantly go, hey, like, I just need to breathe, focus on my breath, and within 5 minutes I'm asleep. And it's just something it's really been beneficial. It's actually something that we've talked about with the Orioles too. So it's nice to see those two worlds kind of clashing and having the same ideas of things that work.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's the conscious mind and the subconscious. When we sleep, that's a subconscious thing. It just happens, right? We don't have to think about it. So when you when you're laying in bed and you have 20, 30 thoughts going through your mind, and you're sitting there telling yourself, God, just stop, slow, slow down. And then breathing just brings you right back to that present moment. And it's probably really the number one tool, I would say, is being able to breathe, get back. Because once you breathe and you focus on that, those thoughts, the anxiety thoughts, which are the fear of failing, these are all future thoughts. That breathing just brings us right back to that present moment.
Yeah, 100%, man. It's great, man. Especially when you have a bad game or something, and with us, our games go until 10:30. So basically, when you get home, you're ready to go to bed. And so if you can't get the thought out of your head of, oh, I played terrible tonight, like I need to be better. This is what I need to do in the morning. It's just one of those techniques that can get you just to forget all that for a little bit and allow your body to just calm down and rest, and it really helps.
Sweet. Well, okay, man, this has been awesome. Are there any other thoughts or ideas that you wanted to share to help any of our listeners?
You know, man, I don't got much else for you, honestly. I think it's, this has all been really good, and I think I'm sure a lot of the guys that you're bringing on are going to have some great stuff that a lot of guys can learn from.
Yeah, I think personally one of my main goals is to, especially, you have someone to go and talk to if stuff's going wrong. You have your parents who are amazing people. You have a lot of people around you that you can talk to, which the high school kids that we talk with do as well. But it's being able to open up about things that, you're asking kids to be a little bit vulnerable with, I feel these things, but they think it's weird, right? They're like, how do I fix this?
Yeah, I mean, it's and not to get too much into it, but it's something that, being a psychology major, I study a lot of things like that, where it has to do with masculinity and like wanting to be tough and wanting to be a real man, and there's these ideas that have been socially constructed to make it seem like men should not have issues, men should not talk about their feelings or their problems. And I think especially younger kids, they get the impression that, hey, if I want to be treated as a real man, if I want to be seen as tough and a real man, I can't be sad, I can't cry, I can't talk to people about my problems, because I need to seem like I got everything under control. And so I definitely think if you're able to, like you said, get kids to open up and be like, this is what's going on, I think if they can get it out, they can get help for something. It can be very, very small, but they still might need just one little thought, like, hey, let's just breathe for 10 seconds when you're feeling this way, or let's do this. And all of a sudden they're like, I'm feeling a lot better. I'm able to focus better. I'm able to play better, blah, blah, blah. And, I think it's just something that a lot of kids just have the wrong ideas of their ideals are messed up, and it's not their fault, but it's definitely out there that, guys aren't supposed to have problems. We're supposed to be the solid ones, and we're not supposed to ever talk about our feelings and stuff. And it's definitely a good thing.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome, man. That's cool that you are a psychology major. I'm sure you'll be able to help a lot of kids as you go throughout your process, and I'm sure you'll be asked a lot to go speak at schools and stuff, and because you're going to get to the big leagues, dude, and you're going to have to talk to a lot of people.
I hope so, man. That's one of the things I want to do. I'd love to go back to my old elementary school, my old middle school.
Yeah.
Back to Gorman one day, and hopefully they want me back to talk to kids. Because one, that means I did something right. I've been successful, something like that. That people want me to go talk to their kids because they think I can help. But just having conversations like this, it's what I studied. I love psychology. I love the mind. I love thinking, and I really want to be able to motivate kids, inspire kids, and help them. Even if it's one kid gets one thing from one of those talks, you're doing something good. So I would love to be able to do that someday.
No doubt, no doubt. So I'm assuming you have like an Instagram, Twitter. Where can people find you and follow you at?
Instagram, I'm at KDYN2. It's, I'm verified on that. I'm verified on Twitter, which is KDYN2 and then CADYN. Or you just search up my name, Cadyn Grenier, and I'll come up. and I don't post a ton, but if you want to see me cook, I do that a lot.
Nice.
But no, that's what I like. I always love when kids and high school kids and stuff, they'll DM me questions. Hey, is there any particular thing that you do to do infield work or something like that? And I always love to get those because I love to be able to just kind of hash it out with kids. And I'm no expert on anything, but I do feel like I've done enough, especially baseball wise, to be able to help somebody out in some way.
That's awesome, man. Plus they can see all your fine tattoo work. I've noticed you're getting your sleeves all taken care of.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, this one's about done. I just got to fill in this spot, but obviously with everything shut down, I can't right now. And then, I haven't even thought about doing the top of this one yet. So I can't wait, but I don't know what I'm gonna do. It takes a lot out of me, man. I sit on the bus rides and stuff for hours and just think about what I can put where, what I want, will this look good with this? And when I'm 80, am I still going to like that? And it's like, no, probably not. It's like, all right, then we're not getting it.
That is what it is, right? Are there certain stories that you think in your mind, okay, this happened in my life, so I got to get this on my arm type thing? Or does it just kind of come to you? How's it going?
That's really only happened, but my first one is the one right here on my forearm, the cross, and it's got the initials RS. That was from my grandfather who passed away several years ago. And so it was like, I've always wanted a tattoo. And so I was like, you know what, this is perfect. I can, get a little memorial type tattoo for him. And then it's just kind of blown up where now I have, a phoenix on the outside of my forearm with the quote, "I am the storm." If anybody knows the quote, the devil whisper in your ear, "You're not strong enough to withstand the storm." And then I whispered back, "I am the storm," like stuff like that. Obviously all this is Vegas stuff minus the skull, which born and raised in Vegas, love Vegas. I don't think could have grown up in a better place with the neighborhood and I had and stuff. And so a lot of that goes into it. But I'm sure more things will happen throughout my life where I'll be like, hey, that would be a sick tattoo and it could really make me remember this moment or remember this situation and how that made me feel or what the experience was like.
Sweet. Well, awesome, dude. Well, I appreciate you coming on board. I knew you would have a good insight for us. You got that the hot prospect type mentality going on, and we fully expect you to be in the big leagues in a couple years, hopefully sooner than later. And expecting a lot of big things, man. It's gonna be fun to watch.
Yeah, I sure hope so. I'm expecting a lot of big things too. So we'll see if I can come through with those.
All right, man. Well, hey, Cayden, I appreciate your time and take care, and we'll see you. All right.
Yeah, anytime, Chad. Thank you, man.
You bet. Hey, guys. Hope you enjoy that conversation with Cadyn Grenier. Cayden, I think, is going to be an outstanding big leaguer, just an amazing kid, very hard worker. But if you guys feel like you need more information and you want some more help in regards to helping your son, your daughter, and just getting some mental skills, and what you want to do is go to mentaledge.training. It's where I developed a personal development course, and it's a mental skills course as well, kind of all tied into one. So if you're interested in that, go take a peek at mentaledge.training. Thanks. We'll see you.